Welcome to the Broken Skull Challenge.
I am the Daddy 187. The rules are simple. The wheels must roll, it must be Hot Wheels size, and it must not use any parts from any cars.
This in a cave with a bunch of scraps.
Hello, Wasteland. Okay, so today's video, well, I finally got called out by someone on YouTube called Daddy187, and he challenged me to make a car out of literally scraps. So I can't use any bits from any Hot Wheels or Matchbox toy car. I can't use any bits or kits from any miniatures or wargaming toys. I can use nothing except what I have lying around, and on top of that, the wheels that I make have to move. So I can't just take some wheels off another Hot Wheels car and stick those on and call it a day. I'm going to have to make my own wheels, and on top of that, they got to spin. So just before we start, I want to say I've discovered that the camera I've been using this entire time came from the dawn of time, because it's so awful. It's utter trash, and I've just discovered that my mobile phone's camera is better than what I've been using. So I want to apologise for all of my previous videos looking like poo, because they could have been recorded on my phone but weren't. But hey ho, let's learn and move on. So let's make a car from literally garbage. So wheels, I've had a couple of ideas for making wheels. Now, if I had a big enough piece of tube or a pen or something like that, I could just cut tire-sized pieces and then put a cap on either side and call it a wheel. But I don't have anything like that. I've got lots of small tubing offcuts and little odd bits of plastic. So, what I've decided is to take inspiration from the greatest film ever made, Mad Max Fury Road, and I love the idea that Max's car had like bits of cloth and fabric and animal hides and whatever stuffed into the tyres just to keep them going, rather than using air or anything like that. So I thought, well, how hard would it be to try and recreate something similar? And it would look like it's made of metal or other bits of tyres or bits of wood or whatever they've got lying around. So my initial ideas for this project have been bad. I couldn't really get it to look anything like a go-kart, so it'll be a miracle if this looks like a car, let alone, you know, not just one of those cars that you just roll down a hill, you know, like a plank of wood with 3 wheels on it and you push it. You know, one of those Pinewood Derby cars. These kind of wheels are going to be scrap wheels, and they're going to start with a central core, which will be the same on all 4 sides, but then around that I'll just glue on little layers of bits of plastic. After that, I'll wrap them in thin strips of plastic to try and give the suggestion that there is some kind of tyre there. I don't know, maybe these are just raw metal running around. And then try and sand that into some kind of circular shape, but oh man, this is not a good start. So trying to make an engine, I'd love to just take one that's ready built and just glue that on, but I can't do that. So I've decided to try and, rather than try and make a big box and stick everything to it, I've decided to try and build an interesting shape in the middle, similar as to how I did with the tyres, but then using layers of plastic around that, build the overall shape of an engine. And my first attempt was far too small. The second attempt was better. It was better. And I think that's what I'll be using, because after gluing on some little details to the front and wrapping a piece of plastic card around it to give the suggestion of like a timing belt or something like that, I think that looks pretty good. I think that looks alright. So at this point I was feeling pretty confident, kind of. So we moved on to the next part, which would be making a frame to put all of these little elements on. The original plan was to use 2 planks of Plasticard, 2 spurs of Plasticard, similar to how I did in my buzzard build, but I didn't want to do that here. I wanted to do something a bit different. I've been doing a lot of work on a commission that uses frames made out of thin plastic tubing, so I wanted to do something like that. So I made an A-frame, simply 2 long pieces, roughly the correct length of a Matchbox car, and then got some scraps and glued it together. And once I had the engine mounted on there, the question was, well, now what? So this was the problem I knew I'd come across in the design process, which was, okay, so I've made my Pinewood Derby car, now what? Where do I go from here? I've got to put a place in there for a guy to sit, but what details do I put on this thing? And it's at a point like this with a normal Hot Wheels or Matchbox car, a lot of the information's already given to you. Like, a Volkswagen Beetle looks like a Volkswagen Beetle, a Corvette looks like a Corvette. You don't have to worry so much, but when you're trying to do it all from literally nothing, that's all on you. So it could look like anything. It could look like a spaceship or an aeroplane or a piece of rubbish, but it's down to you to make it. So I figured, whatever, let's make a car similar to something out of the 3rd Mad Max film, Beyond Thunderdome, and the cars in that film were just ridiculous, sort of almost animal carcass looking things with these rib cage like metal foundations and structures. So I figured I'd build some kind of area for the driver to sit, and it's kind of protected around that, but with really thin supports rather than big solid panels. I knew from the start that I wanted to have a kind of a teeth sort of motif going on with these little spikes, these little blades around the driver. So I made a little, once I put the driver in, because I wanted to use at least one thing in this that wasn't just made from Plasticard, so I dropped my little plastic Keith Honeyman driver in there, metal Keith Honeyman driver in there. And once I'd, built little steering wheel / joysticks for him to hold on to, I put a little bar in front and glued on some little plastic rod spikes that I suppose could be like rebars or something that's been sharpened. Added a little detail at the back. The nice thing about a project like this is you'll have a lot of little extra leftover bits from other projects that you can stick on there. Things that didn't work out so well but you thought were too cool to just throw away. And I've done that a couple of times with this one. And one of them was this little, using brass wire, just making this little noose looking thing. I suppose it's so you could like latch it onto wrecks and carry them away. But it was quite nice. It was just a nice little feature, and I used that in other areas as well to make it look like rough and ready tied on supports, like the whole thing's falling apart. So the engine's in place, the driver's in place, I've got a framework around the driver. Well, normally I put a radiator on the front, but I didn't want to cover over that wonderful job I'd done on the engine, so a bit of Plasticard, some plastic rod spikes, there you go, it makes a little rough and ready radiator. And then exhausts for the engine. Well, these can look like anything. I mean, on my Buzzard they're just pre-built, they're already on the engine, but I've done them where they go around the back of the car or up the sides. Here I thought, why not just stretching up and out, like almost like horns or like crazy hair or something like that growing out the side of this engine. So that's why those are there. And then I tend to miss this, but I always like to see headlights on cars. People often talk about cars having faces, so I thought, you know what, I'll get some of these offcuts and I'll just make some like nice little menacing eyes for the front of this car. And then there you go, that's pretty much it. This thing weighs almost nothing. As you can imagine, it's quite fragile. I don't feel comfortable dropping this on the floor. But on the upside, it costs nothing to make because it's literally all the little bits that normally you just throw away. But if you just put them in a little container, you can one day make your own little scrap car. Okay guys, I'll have a clip of my reaction to the Daddy 187's build. Don't forget to check out his video on his channel. And also, for those of you who love the pit stop and my battle reports with Bleep Tip Productions, we've got new content up, so go have a look at it now. Go now. And I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you, and goodbye, Wasteland. Okay, so this is the start of the video from the Daddy 187. His vehicle is based off of the Marauder, which is a huge orange vehicle Richard Hammond smashed through walls back when Top Gear was still good. That will be from the episode, the Top Gear episode where they're knocking down houses. Okay, so let's see what he's done. So this is me watching the video and playing it at the same time. I got the volume muted so I can add it in after. Okay, so it looks like the majority of that might be Plasticard, or God, even wood. I don't know. Could be a bit of cardboard on that. I love the curved paneling. I should have done that, because I think that's the thing with certain materials, you can bend them easier, and I did mine entirely out of plastic, so that was the wrong move. But what's that? Is that the central component from a fidget spinner? Is that what he's based the wheels off of? Oh, fantastic. Alright, so it looks like he uses fidget spinner wheels and a Swiss Army knife to cut paper to make tyres, I guess, with some bolts. And it is a piece of wood! Oh, I thought it was! I think that's kind of cool, because wooden toys goes right back to the original Lego toys, because Lego, when it first started out and it was just like a one-man shop, they were just handcrafted wooden toys. So I think that's really nice. I think it's great. And then what's this? This is some kind of paint, maybe? Something? Some kind of thinner? It just looks like he's putting superglue all over the top of his car. Like a hell of a lot of superglue, but I don't think it is. I think it's some sort of dye, or he's just smushing with his finger, so it can't be superglue. Or am I being really dumb and it's a rust solution? It's a rust powder. There you go. There you go. See, using plastic tubing from everyday household objects like Q-tips. But no, that's really good. I like that. I think that's really sick. I love the fact that he's based on a real world vehicle. I love the fact that he's used materials that normally I wouldn't use. Like, I've never really tried making anything out of wood, so you never know, I might have to do that one day. And no, I think you've done a great job, the Daddy 187. I think that little build there is a proper good car, and I would happily fight against that in the Wasteland. And I'd think in a one-on-one battle that'd probably plough through my little everything in the sink buggy that I've built entirely out of plastic. Well, thanks for the challenge, the Daddy 187, and you never know, if you've got another one for me, I'll happily take it up.